My name is David Huggill, and I am the Western Canada Policy Manager for the Canadian Wind Energy Association. CanWIA is the not-for-profit national trade association that advocates on behalf of sustainable and responsible wind generation across the country. I happen to be responsible for Western Canada. And we have a very diverse membership, and we have everybody from developers to consultants, what is referred to as the supply and value chain end of things, as well as governments and utilities are also part of our membership. Our membership is open to everybody. Now is a real appetite within the government and a lot of other areas to help deal with Alberta's image outside of the province in terms of our we are an energy province, and wind has the opportunity to help green that image, which is otherwise very focused on the fossil end of things. And so that's what we're seeing as a tangible solution that we can bring to things like the provincial energy strategy. We also think there's an opportunity to talk about the economic diversification that comes with the wind industry, and we see that starting to really take on some interest in southern Alberta, principally because that's where the industry is focused right now. But having said that, there is starting to be interest outside of the southern portion of the province. We're starting to get up into south central Alberta, and so that's a real opportunity for us. One of the issues that we're all aware of with wind is the variability, and geographic diversity helps deal with that variability to a degree. Another big opportunity in Alberta is working with the Alberta Electric System Operator, the ISO. Their interest and investment in the southeast corner of the province through their reinforcement program, specifically to integrate wind, is another, I think, good indication of the opportunities that exist in the province. Certainly, being a merchant market has its pluses and minuses, but I think that when you look at everything that's happened in the province, the number of wind projects that remain in the queue is, again, we're sort of the single, along with Cogen, the other big form of energy that is looking to connect to the grid in Alberta. So again, very good opportunity and a signal that wind is certainly here to stay for the long run. I think there needs to be a streamlining of the regulatory process. I'm not saying that has to be a separate policy to deal with that. I just think that there's interest in sort of the harmonization on that end of things. I think another opportunity is being able to attribute the environmental attributes that go with wind. We don't use water. There's no residual or toxic waste associated with us. We're obviously non-emitting, and we have a very small footprint on the landscape, and we are a very good partner with the agriculture and rural-based society in Alberta, and I think that's fundamentally important. And certainly the industry, we're very interested in doing a more proactive job of getting that message out, so that we're able to really focus on the benefits of wind, which is what CanWIA is interested in doing in the long run, and bringing that message both to those municipalities, those rural municipalities, but also the elected representatives. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the right people have the right information, so that they can make decisions accordingly. That's a real focus right now for us. Well, I think you have to look to the ISO queue. Currently, ISO is revising their interconnection process. That has resulted in a new queue, which is on their website, and there are over 50 distinct wind projects that are sort of in that queue, representing over just under 8,000 megawatts of potential electricity that could come on. And so I think again, there's that level of interest that's sustained, and I think a lot of it, and we've talked about it here today, is the sort of trying to position the Alberta marketplace for the carbon market. Again, without knowing where it's going to come from or what it's going to look like or what the economic impact of that will be ultimately, I think there's a lot of interest in positioning the market so we're able to sustain that and be able to create some opportunities once sort of the full realization of that comes forward. From our perspective, I think the merchant market obviously has some real opportunities and some real challenges. One of the biggest things that industry is very interested in figuring out is understanding what the process is and what the expectations are of the developer as they enter that process. Certainly it speaks to that streamlining opportunity. What are the expectations? What information do I have to supply at what point? And what is the timeline when I get into that process? I think those are some real fundamental questions in terms of what a proponent and a developer is interested in knowing is, and just sort of some realistic expectations around the time frame and what the process is. And another big part is what's within the control of the proponent, and when it goes into the hands of a regulator, it's sort of, well, hurry up and wait. And that's that time lag is very important, because that there's a direct correlation to cost with time. So the longer it takes to obtain approval or certification or a permit or whatever it is you're applying for, that length of time equates to costs, which ultimately impacts the economic feasibility of your project. So the more that can be known going into the project or into the process, that will help a proponent ultimately in the long run. Well, the whole question around transmission, which I think is one that is certainly fundamental, particularly in Alberta. It's not a wind or a particular. It's not being driven by any particular sector of the industry. I think there's interest in dealing with grid infrastructure, and Alberta has always built transmission to accommodate or facilitate the fuel source. That's why we have the grid system that we currently have today. And I think it's fair to say that the grid 20 years from now is going to be distinctly different than the grid we had 20 years ago. And so it's absolutely appropriate that we have these kind of conversations right now. And certainly kudos to the Pembina Institute for not only holding this session, but being able to attract the talent that dedicated a day to it. I think it speaks volumes to the level of interest in moving this whole issue, sort of down the field. So that's certainly an issue, and I think that getting our product, our commodity to market is the facilitator for that is transmission. So that's a significant opportunity for us to be able to work on that proactively. And I think the streamlining of the regulatory process is something that is very important in terms of being able to, and sort of the follow-on is, again, the harmonization between the provincial and the municipal governments, because I think that there's a lot of opportunity there for the two levels of government to work together.